It's time to place your bets. Let's talk to the pros. Hey, yo, what's up, everybody? It's me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and welcome to Betting Pros. And we are here today to take you through the American League. That's right, win totals, baby. It is me, it is Dan Harris, and it is you. And Dan, we just did a very successful National League pod. If people missed it, they can go back and listen to it, obviously, on demand, wherever they get their podcasts. But it's time to focus on the American League today and the win totals there, where the DH still lives and breathes, where eventually we'll come back to the National League, I believe. But that's the big difference, and the difference is too, we've got some teams, some juggernaut teams, especially in the New York Yankees and a few other ones as well. But this seems a little bit more maybe open to interpretation with some of these win totals. I think there might be some more variance here as we're looking at the American League. So welcome to the show today, my friend. How are you?
I'm doing well. Yeah, these totals, that some of them are tough. I have a couple of ones that I really, really like. I'm going to be interested to hear what you have to say about them. But a lot of them, it's kind of like, I don't know, like this easily could be like 10 games over, 10 games under. And I really have no idea which way I lean. So I'm excited to talk about these today for sure, because you're right. There are a lot of places that we really need to dive into the number.
Yeah, and if you're looking to dive into these numbers, make sure you hit up Betting Pros, because that's the site for you. It's our extension to Fantasy Pros, and obviously it's for all your betting information. They do a fantastic job here of taking all the different sites, all the different win totals, so you can see everything, look at where the values are on the board, and make your good informed decisions, and that's what we're about here. A little entertainment, a little information, a little this, a little that, and we got you covered here on Betting Pros. So let's start. Let's start with the Yankees, the team that is either loved or hated, depending on what side of the aisle you're on. But the win total for the Yankees, big time expectations, as always. And that's the thing with these big teams, whether it be in football, the Dallas Cowboys that have big followings, certain teams, the Yankees, you're always going to have a premium because of the kind of team they are, the big base fan base. So the aggregate here is 95.5. That's about what you're getting at most spots for the New York Yankees. Now, what's interesting about this is you look at them on paper, you see the talent. It's the rotation, I think, that's got more questions. You got Garrett Cole at the top, no questions about him. But after that, how many innings is Taillon going to give you? Is Corey Kluber going to bounce back and give you 200 innings again? That's a distinct question mark. Domingo Germán, will Severino come back? David Garcia, is he ready to kind of make that leap? Dan, there's a lot of questions, and that 95.5 is a very big number. So with all that in there, plus, oh yeah, there's a bunch of guys that get hurt every year on the Yankees, named Judge and Stanton. Throwing all that in there, is this tempting you to look potentially at the under of this 95.5?
It's kind of a stay away for me. I wouldn't go over. I would say that. I'm not going over with it for the exact reasons that you said. Corey Kluber is the number 2 starter. That's not a rotation that should be, for a team that should be expected to have 95.5 wins. It really is, with all the question marks in that rotation, just something where I can't go over. It is the lineup, but you mentioned it, man. You want a lineup where guys are likely to miss time between Judge and Stanton and Aaron Hicks and everything like that. It's really tough. And the bullpen is good, but already they're dealing with something. We don't know the news. It just broke this morning, but Britton is having an MRI. They're a little worried about his UCL and his arm. That would be a big hit to the bullpen. So 95.5 is a big number. There's no way I would go over, but if they stay healthy, if you get a bounce back really from either Taillon or Kluber, they easily could hit this number. So for me, it's a stay away. I lean slightly the under, but I'm basically not betting it either way.
I'm not a big fan of I really like this number. It feels really good, but I don't really like this number. It feels really good. It feels right about where it should be. And the reason is because of the variance of the pitchers. Even if
Correct.
they get good innings out of those guys, my concern is, do they get enough of them? And then the bullpen, which is the strength, if they start having an injury or two, then we're really into the weeds. And I think when you're looking at the overall picture of the East, Dan, it feels a little bit, at least to me, like the Rays and Blue Jays are going to be far more competitive than I think people realized even last year. And that's something that's going to enter into it. Now, going to those Rays who made it to the World Series, I went on record last year all over the place, and I said that this is a season that is built for the Rays. It's 60 games. The Red Sox are not competing this year. The Yankees are not going to be able to go out there and acquire big ticket items, and they can absorb all these big salaries because they're the Yankees or they're the Red Sox. So the Rays are actually, for the first time, competing on a very level playing field. And wouldn't you know it, they made it all the way to the World Series.
Yep.
But now we're back to 162. So here's the question. No Snell, no Morton. I know they have that whole Little League pitching thing, which you're a big fan of the Little League pitching. I know that. I know you got lots of Little League commitments going on. 85.5 is the number for the Rays, the reigning defending American League champs. So do you think this is achievable with these losses in the rotation and now the factor in that we're back to the 162 marathon?
I do, but I really just do because I just kind of, with the Rays, I just kind of close my eyes and say, I believe in whatever you want me to believe. Because when you look at this team, you're like, how is this team even a 500 team? I mean, you look at the rotation, I mean, when they lost Snell, you mentioned they lost Morton, you're like, okay, Chris Archer, Rich Hill, Michael Wacha, Colin McHugh. I mean, they've got Glasnow, but yeah, that rotation is not something that scares you. And I'm sure they're going to be doing like, you throw 3 innings, you throw 3 innings, you throw 3 innings like that, which is fine. And their
that rotation sounds like a sleeper list from 2018.
Correct. That's the
That
thing.
is my favorite, most hilarious rotation ever. The way you just put them all together and it made me go, what year is it?
That's what the rotation is. I didn't do anything. I legit just read the rotation. And the lineup also is just like, you're like, okay, Meadows, I like you for a bounce back. Brandon Lau, always, he developed power. Maybe you buy into Randy Arozarena, maybe, but then you're like, okay, who's your cleanup hitter? Oh, it's G-Man Choi. Like, this is not a lineup that you're scared of. I do like the bullpen. I love Nick Anderson. I mean, I think what you saw from him during the season last year is closer to what you're going to get. I know he fell apart in the postseason, but I do expect him to be back to pretty much normal, which what he was. I like Castillo, and Fairbanks is fine. So, the last 3 years, 90, 96, and then last year they were on a 108 win pace. At 85.5, this sounds terrible, but I lean the over, but only really because I'm like, they know what to do to get the most out of their players, and I think that they are going to be competitive. It's a good division. It's tough, but I lean slightly over, but I have to close my eyes because when you look at the actual parts, you're like, oh God, this is disgusting. So yeah, slightly over, but not hammering it or anything like that.
No, I'm not hammering this one either. I would also lean the over if I'm going to lean one way on this one. It's because I think the addition at some point in the time in this year of Wander Franco to this offense is going to be a big boost. And
what do you think, by the way, with him? When do you expect him to come up?
Honestly, sooner than later. I don't know if it's going to break camp, but my goodness, he's got off to a great start. Yeah. And that's like, he is kind of forcing their hand, and I know he could play third base, they say, and maybe, he plays second base and Lau moves somewhere else. I know there's a lot of discussions right now, but I think last year you knew they weren't going to push Wander Franco. They just weren't going to do it.
Yep.
This year, this is a totally different set of circumstances, and when you can't acquire big time guys like the Yankees can, like the Blue Jays probably can, like the Red Sox can, what you can do is add guys from within, which is what they did last year with the Arozarena and which they can do this year with Franco. So those are the difference maker guys. I think they will go over. They will find a way because they always do. Right. And they have a nose for getting the best out of these guys. And like Rich Hill, I know he's 110 years old, but I think it was a good signing. Like, I actually think that was a good move for them. And it's hard to replace Morton and Snell. I think that's a lot, but they're going to get creative. They always do. Yep. And they're going to manage their way. I mean, you're looking at basically 4.5 games above 500. Are the Rays a better than 500 baseball team? In my opinion, I think they are. So that's why I would go. Are they 5 games better? Probably not much more. The Blue Jays, however, at 86.5, they're even higher in most spots than the Rays. And everybody's drinking the Kool-Aid. And I love the Blue Jays. I'm very excited about them. However, this is another team that, after Hyunjin Ryu, there's questions in the rotation. So that's kind of like the theme right now of the American League East as we continue on here. There's a guy at the top. It's Cole, it's Glasnow, it's it's Hyunjin Ryu, and then after that, I don't know. We'll see. Who are the guys in the rest of these rotations? So is the Springer addition enough for this team to stay relevant over this time period and be an 86.5 above? Or do you think maybe the hype is a little bit, I don't know, too much too soon for these Blue Jays?
I think it's enough to go over. The rotation, you're right. I mean, there is a lot of horrible rotations, which isn't good when you're in a division with a lot of really good lineups, but the rotation is gross. I mean, Robbie Ray, Tanner Roark, hopefully Nate Pearson can stay healthy, but even if he does, he's going to be limited in innings. Steven Matz, which you and I both know well, of course, as Mets fans, and Ross Stripling had a terrible year last year. Maybe he bounces back. The rotation is bad, but they are going to score so many runs, especially, they're going to be playing in Dunedin. I think that's how it's pronounced, by the way, but that is an
I think
extreme
it's
hitters.
Dunedin.
Dunedin?
I think
Dunedin.
so. You know
All
what?
right.
It doesn't matter.
Hey, it doesn't matter. Oh,
Nobody's
somebody
listening from
somebody
there.
tweeted us and figure out Dan
Yeah.
Harris 80, Joe Peasby 17. Okay, but regardless of what it is an extreme hitters park, and you go to that lineup, and it's not just Springer, by the way. I kind of really liked the under the radar signing of Marcus Semien too, because now you
Mhm.
look at that lineup, Joe. Go down from the top to the bottom. It's Springer, Bichette, Semien, Teoscar Hernandez, Vladdy, Biggio, Gurriel. Like, that is a lineup. I mean, they're going to probably win a lot of 12-10 games given everything like that. They don't have a great bullpen. I do like Kirby Yates, but he's got to bounce back, and we need to see that and everything like that. The thing is, they have a farm system, right? They have a very solid farm system. So if they're in contention, they're going to go for it. It's clear what they're doing. They are going for it right now. So even though the pitching staff is weak, even though the bullpen is mediocre, unless Yates returns to top form, in which case they have one of the best closers in the game, I think the lineup is so good that they're going to be able to slightly surpass the 86.5 wins. They strike me as more of like an 88 win team. So I lean the over here. Again, not my favorite bet on the board or anything like that, but I do like the over.
We could also make it up and call it Dunedin, which would sound a lot more like a
Okay.
Lord of the Rings place.
Yeah.
I think that's where you have to. You must take the ring to Dunedin, and when you go
It
there,
does.
find the three-eyed crow. And yeah, it sounds like that. It's like a big Game of Thronesy sort of Lord of the Ringsy kind of place. You got to watch out. You don't want to be caught in after dark in Dunedin. It's a very dangerous
true.
place. Boston Red Sox 80.5. Ugly. It's the only way to discuss the Red Sox season last year. 80.5 is the number, so they're basically just saying, let's throw our hands up. It's a 500 team. Another team that has a lot of questions in the rotation now. Eduardo Rodriguez, looking good this spring.
Yep.
Perhaps you get a healthy Chris Sale back at some point. I think when you're looking at this injury to Xander Bogaerts, you're slightly concerned. It seems like it's going in the right direction. However, sometimes things like that tend to linger. So I don't think it's a question of can they score runs. I think we all know that they can.
Yep.
It's just a matter of the bullpen, the back of the rotation yet again here. This is just what the East is right now. It's kind of, you've got those front end pitchers,
Yep.
and then it's kind of tough to figure things out. So in my opinion, I think this is, again, another number whereas I feel good about the Rays over. The Blue Jays is another one where I feel barely good about that. I would lean towards the over there. The Red Sox, I'd actually lean towards the under because I think they're still more. I think basically this number is because they're the Red Sox.
Yep.
And I know that sounds crazy, but I think you can get people to wager on the over based on the brand instead of really paying attention to what the roster looks like. Because I think the roster still has enough holes that they're probably just slightly under a 500 team.
Yep, I agree with that. I lean under. I think if you put them in another division, maybe you could see them getting to above 500. But in this division, we just talked about it, three very, very good teams, one not so good team, which we'll talk about next. But with those teams, I feel like it's going to be really tough for this team to get there. And again, you mentioned the rotation. All the other teams, they all have your one guy, right? They all have, all right, this is our guy. At least
Right.
they don't have a guy. I mean, Eduardo Rodriguez is a fine pitcher, and I'm really hoping that he returns to full health, but that is not an ace pitcher. I mean, nor is Nathan Eovaldi. So their rotation is really not strong. And their lineup, hopefully, I mean, is JD Martinez. I'm buying into the bounce back for JD Martinez, but we still need to see it. And Xander Bogaerts, again, is already dealing with the shoulder thing. I don't think that the lineup is going to be the Red Sox lineup of old, and the bullpen is just mediocre. I mean, I don't trust Matt Barnes to close games or Adam Ottavino, whoever wins it. The rest of them, Brazier, Sawamura, Hernandez, like, they're just not that impressive. So for me, again, I lean the under here. This is not a strong, this division, the numbers are not strong. I don't get a strong lean. There are other spots where I have much stronger leans. I lean under, like you. I think we see this the same way. In another division, maybe over, but in the East, I'm going under.
I just think this is a carryover from last year.
Yeah.
Last year was ugly, but they have not fixed enough of the issues. Where are the issues that they fixed? They're not there. So
Well, I think they're operating more like a small market team, which is fine. The GM Bloom. I mean, we almost hired him for the Mets job before we hired Brody Van Wagenen. That's sort of the way he operates, right? Like, he comes from a small market background, and it's fine for them. That's what they're doing. But I think everybody kind of needs to understand that is what they're doing. They're not
Mm-hmm.
sort of wasting things right now. They're fully content to not be in contention this year. So it's a team that, again, if it comes down to it, if they're not in contention, they'll be willing to sell off pieces that they can and build up for next year. So I do lean the under.
I think they can make. I'll tell you what. I think you can make some money on the Red Sox under this year. I do. I just think too many people are just buying into the concept that it's the Red Sox. They're going to be better. No, I think they're still in this transition, and they might even be into it in the first half of 2022. All right, let's go into the next one here. The Baltimore Orioles close out the East. 64.5. Ew, not the greatest number. 64.5. You're going to lose about 100 games or so. So here's the idea. It's whether or not you believe that they're just going to get pummeled by the rest of this division, which I think they probably are. The low numbers, typically I see the low number and I like to go over. I like to give some teams a little bit more credit.
Of course.
Now, I have a hard time doing that here. I just got to be honest with you. Are you having the same hard time?
Oh, I'm under. I'm under.
You're under.
I feel bad. It's such a low number, but yeah, this is a 100-loss team. Like, it just is. I mean, Joe, you and I do fantasy baseball. Obviously, we are fantasy baseball quote unquote experts, and I like John Means. Like, I do like him very much. I don't think before I kind of was really digging into it, I could have named another Orioles starter. Can people listening right now name another starter?
Jim Palmer.
Jim Palmer was at one point a starter. Dylan Bundy was not a good starter for them before he went to the Angels. Keegan Aiken, Dean Kramer, Jorge Lopez, like, this is not a major league. Talk about some rotations. This is not a major league rotation. And their lineup is fine. You and I are big Trey Mancini guys. I like Ryan Mountcastle, but not good enough to compete with these other lineups. So, and the bullpen isn't great at all. So there's just nothing about this that screams you're going to be able to, like, become a 65, 66 win team in this division. Again, where every team, even the Red Sox, are not going to be terrible. We're not like a 76 win team. They're going to be around 500. So for me, it's a low number, but yeah, this is a team I'm fading. I will go under the 64.5 here with the Orioles.
Yeah, I kind of worry because they're going to play teams from the Central too, and there's some better teams there we're going to get into in a second. I think that's to be where I would lean the under as well. It's because of the rest of the league. Even when they go play West Coast road trips, there's some of those teams in the West that are going to give them fits. The Angels are going to give them a hard time. The A's. But let's move on to the White Sox here in the Central, because this is one where I am excited right now. 91.5. Here we go. I'm finally excited. Why do I always get excited when it comes to the Central? I don't know why. I'm just a Midwestern kind of guy.
Well, are you excited for the over? Or are you excited for the under?
I'm
You're just excited for the White Sox.
Oh, Danny boy, I'm excited for the over. 91.5?
Okay.
Come on. Have we seen this lineup? They added Lance Lynn. He's a horse. Lynn, Giolito, Keuchel. They've got some other guys too. They've got Dylan Cease and Lopez, and who knows what Kopech can give them. They fixed the ninth inning where they brought in a shutdown closer.
Yeah.
You have a lineup that doesn't quit. Oh my goodness, 91.5. I saw this and I just wanted to immediately go and find all the places where I could go and wager on it, because I do feel like this is something where they're not giving the White Sox enough credit. And I think it's time we do, because this is a team that is young, that is hungry, that already proved last year the concept, and now they're just coming back for more. And they've got the reigning MVP on their team as well, and Jose Abreu. I just think this team is much better than people realize. And I also think this whole division, Minnesota and the Indians are going to, or the Cleveland baseball team as it might be right now, is going to take a step backwards.
They are still the Indians, right?
I don't know. All right.
Anyway,
I don't know. If they are, I apologize. If they're not, I apologize.
Either
way, I think it's safe to just apologize. So, White Sox for you, 91.5. What do you do?
I kind of stay away from it.
No!
But all right, here's it.
I thought we were going to hold hands and run through the village on this one.
Let's point out a couple of things. Okay. Number one, there are books out there, FanDuel in particular, 90.5. So if you like it, you can get it even better at 91.5, which is the consensus line. Again, on our Betting Pros consensus, MLB, bettingpros.com/MLB wins, you can look at the win totals for every team, the consensus line, and the individual sports books. So you're looking at it, the consensus line is 91.5, but there are a couple, Fox Bet, FanDuel, that are at 90.5. So you can get an even better line if you like the over, if you're available to bet in those markets. Here it is. You're right. Everything you said is right. And I've dug into this team, and I can't poke holes in it, okay? I really can't. Their lineup is extremely, extremely strong. It just is. There really is no holes in it. Their rotation, you mentioned it, Lynn, and especially a year like this, where you're coming off where you don't know if you can count on the innings that you're going to get from most pitchers. You can count on the innings you're going to get from Lynn. Giolito is great, of course. Keuchel is very good. Maybe the back end of their rotation is a little weak, but you mentioned it. They've got Kopech waiting to come. You add basically the best closer in the game, and Aaron Bummer was probably okay to step in, even if not. Here's what worries me, Joe, and it's probably silly to give this much credit because there are teams that projection systems just kind of, they can't get a hold of, like the A's and the Braves, right? The projection systems are always way below them. The projection, Pacoda, right? Like one of the most well-known projection systems, 82.5 wins.
No, that's what they had for the Braves too, or something.
I agree. The Braves, there are certain teams historically, and they do it every single year, and they also overvalue a couple teams every year, which we'll get to one of those teams when we get to the West. They undervalue certain teams every single year because I think they can't quantify certain parts of their team, whether it's the defense or, with the Rays, sometimes the way they're able to, basically outmaneuver everybody. I don't know what it is with the White Sox, and historically, I don't think they go under on the White Sox. So I've been digging into that. That makes me extremely worried when a projection system is 9 wins different than what the over/under is. So 9 times. I'm just basically, I understand over. I'm not betting the under, but I'm staying away from it. And it's a simple thing. And people want to be like, what do you mean? So you like the team, you think they could go over, but the projection system is so far down, so you're off? Yeah, I hate to say it, but I am. Because when it's that big a difference, Joe, a 9-win difference for me is enough for me to say, am I missing something with this team? And I can't quantify it yet. So for me, I'm staying away. But if there is a way to go, it is over. I will agree with you there.
Closer, check. Rotation, check.
I get it.
Youth, check.
Yep.
Depth in the system, check.
Okay, what about this?
I got more checks. I got more checks. I want to finish my checks. I've got a whole checklist. So, power, check. Speed, check. Defense, big check. A lot of good defenders, too. Madrigal's a good defender, and they bring in Adam Eaton over the... Now, honestly, it's going to be tricky with Vaughn playing DH, what you do with Eloy. Not the greatest defender, but he's going to be out there.
True.
But I think that's part of the acquisition there of bringing in Adam Eaton, too, is shoring up, a lot of the outfield defense. So... Yep.
All right,
I'm telling you right now, I think they're closer to a 100-win team than they are a 90-win team.
Ooh, all right. So you're really going over here.
I am.
Maybe for me, maybe what's holding me back in addition to Pacoda is Tony La Russa. Like, what happens the first time?
That is the one check I did not check because I don't.
You conspicuously forgot to mention the manager. Yeah, I think for me, again, maybe it's going to be one of these things. You're going to see a bat flip. Like, this team is young and cool and loose and bat flippy, and I feel like you're going to be like, did you just bat flip? You're benched for 3 games and stuff like that. You could see like this sort of.
This is the same guy who managed the A's with the forearm bashing and Ricky Henderson flipping bats and things.
80 years ago, man. That was like another time. That was a whole nother time. No,
Tony La Russa cares about one thing: winning. If they're winning, they can do whatever the hell they want. If they're losing, that's a different story.
All right. Well, if you work for Pacoda and you are listening to this podcast, DM me on Twitter and explain to me why you're so
explain yourself.
Explain yourself.
When you say Pacoda, I always think of Bill Pacoda, or like immediately, and that shows my age. I just want to put that up.
You're an old man.
I'm an old man. All right. Minnesota Twins are next, 88.5. Now this number feels right to me. This is one that I'm running away from. The Twins, I could do the opposite checklist. Everything could break right, but Donaldson's health couldn't. This could be finally the year Nelson Cruz, God forbid, isn't Nelson Cruz. Rosario is gone. Barrios still hasn't taken that step forward. Maeda's coming off a career year. All these things. Buxton's always hurt. Sano strikes out every 5 seconds. There's so many negatives I can look at this team, and I think that that's a sound way of looking at it. And if you could look at all those negatives, it would tend towards an under. Yeah. But I know that not every negative is going to happen for the Twins, so I think this is a good number. This is a stay-away number for me. I'm bullish on the White Sox. I am passive about the Twins. What do you think about Minnesota this year in that 88.5?
I agree with you that it seems like a pretty sharp number to me. And again, the last 2 years, 101 wins, and then they were on a 97-win pace last year. It's a good team, and not that much has changed, but I agree with you. Like, it is really easy to see this falling off a cliff because, again, Nelson Cruz is 1,000 years old, and although everything looks good and he continues to get it done and he continues to be undervalued generally, like, the wheels fall off for everyone.
Sometimes.
Eventually,
except me.
That's true.
Not me.
Obviously. Yeah. But Buxton, you're right. I mean, if I knew Buxton were going to be healthy the whole season, I would love it. But obviously, he never is. Josh Donaldson feels like he's about to break down. Is Miguel Sano going to play to the 80th percentile of his possible outcomes or the 20th? You never know. But their team is like it's solid. I mean, the big Barrios, Maeda, and I like Pineda. I like adding J Happ at the end of the rotation as well. I like adding Alex Colomé, who continues to get it done despite mediocre stuff in the bullpen. So it does strike me as a team that's going to be above 500, but there's enough downside for me, if everything goes right, that I agree with you. I kind of want to stay away from the number. It's a solid number, something
It's a
I don't
solid
really
number.
love. Yep.
It's better than 500 team, but I don't think they're a 90-win team, and that's
Yeah.
stay away. Now, this next one, I like the over two. It's the Cleveland baseball team, the Indians, 81 and a half. And the reason is they have pitching. You know, when we talk about all these other teams and go, oh, what about the 3 and the 4 and the 5? Well, guess what? This one goes all the way. You know, you start with Bieber, who's probably the best pitcher in the American League besides Garrett Cole. You can have that conversation. But then after that, you've got Plesac, you've got Savale, who I think very highly of. You've got Tristan McKenzie. I mean, there's always this sense that Cleveland will find a way, and they keep breeding these young pitchers and turning it over. And yes, they did lose Lindor, but they did bring in Rosario, and that's good. And I just feel like from the Indian standpoint, they have the manager, they have the pitching. That's enough to be more than a 500 team. And they're just giving them 500. 81 and a half is 500. They're better than that. They're 84, 85, in my opinion, somewhere around there. So for me, I actually think Cleveland's going to have a streak or two in the year. It's going to put them over 500 because that pitching can be so dominant at times. And that is something that other teams don't all have. So when they go and play some of the lesser teams in the East or in the West, they're going to feast on those teams with that pitching. That's my take on Cleveland. What's yours?
I'm not like running to the over here just because I feel like Cleveland every single year, and again, we talked a little bit about it with the Rays. It's like their whole is greater than the sum of their parts. They are somehow able to do it. They are masters at getting these guys like Plesac and Savale, who are like command guys without the greatest stuff, and turning them into borderline dominant pitchers. I don't know how they do it every single year, but they are able to get that done. Obviously, Karinchak, if he's dominant in the bullpen, I know he had a little bit of some control issues in his first appearance there, and that might rear their ugly head. Their lineup is not great. I think adding Eddie Rosario really helped a lot, and Fran Mills there, of course, Jose Ramirez. I don't know, man. I feel like when I look at the parts, it's like a 500 team. And will it surprise me if they go over? No, because they always find a way to be better than I feel like they should be. But it strikes me as a 500 team. So, I mean, for me, look, I guess, if I had to go one way or the other, I'd go over. But there's an over that I like in this division. We haven't gotten there yet.
All right, well, maybe it's the Kansas City Royals. Let's see what Dan thinks about them. 73 and a half is the number. Now, this is, I think, a very competitive team. My problem is competitive and wins don't always go hand in hand.
Yep.
So that's the tough selling point for me on the 73 and a half. Now, I would lean towards the over here slightly because I am actually going to go in the under in the next team, and I think that's where the variance comes from. I think the Royals are closer to the other group than they are the bottom tier.
Sure.
But what do you think about the Royals? Because I'm guessing that's the one you're talking about. Because there's only two left, and I don't think it's the Tigers.
I'm not smashing the over on the Tigers. That's true. That's true.
Not a Torkelson guy.
It is the Royals. It is the Royals at 73 and a half. They are my favorite one in the division, and it's over. And I think, again, part of it is I don't like the Indians as much as you. I have some probably, unfounded concerns about the White Sox. The Twins might not be as good as they usually are. And I think the Royals are where they're going to make up a little bit of the difference. We've talked about it on the fantasy side. We really like what they have done this offseason for that sneaky good offense, right? Like Whit Merrifield, Andrew Benintendi, who you and I both think can bounce back with the change of scenery. Sal Perez, Carlos Santana was a nice little, just sneaky little ad. Jorge Soler still has the power. You've got Adalberto Mondesi, going to probably lead the league in steals. Hunter Dozier, we like as a bounce back, who they signed to an extension. Michael Taylor finally is going to get some regular playing time, and he can do some damage. The lineup, really, from top to bottom, it doesn't blow you away. It doesn't have superstars, but it's a long lineup. It's going to be tough to get through them. And I like the rotation, not love the rotation, but I think they've got enough quality arms that they're going to be able to put out somebody pretty much each and every time through the rotation that's going to be like, this guy should keep us in the game, whether it's Duffy or Keller, or Minor or Singer. I mean, I think that those guys are going to be able to do it. Greg Holland, like, maybe the wheels fall back off. I feel like they fell off and came back on, and they might fall off again. That's fine.
I don't even got any wheels anymore. I'm not sure.
The eighth inning guy, Stalmont.
That guy's been on donuts for years. I'm pretty sure.
Stalmont, I forget how to pronounce his name. Stalmont.
Dunedin.
Their reliever Dunedin really throws gas, so he can really step in. And again, I think that the fact that they signed Dozier to the extension, I think this team sort of feels like it might have arrived, quote unquote, a little earlier than they expected, and they're willing to kind of play themselves into contention. So this strikes me as like a high 70s win team. I still think they'll probably be below 500, but it strikes me as like 78, 79 win team for me. So I really like the over. This is one of my favorite bets of the season.
Bobby Witt Jr. is pushing the envelope a little bit too. I like me some Bobby Witt Jr. I was very high on him when he was drafted. I thought that was a great pick by the Royals, and he looks like he might force their hand at some point. I don't know if they're going to be willing to do it, but my goodness,
by the way, I will
ready.
say, Joe, it was 73.5, right? That's what we had?
I will double check. 73.5, correct.
It just dropped to 72.5. So now I'm even going more because, again,
in the middle of this conversation, that is amazing.
I checked before, right before it was 73.5. I wanted to make sure. I didn't have it.
That's what we do. We move the needle here at Betting Pros.
I am going, and again, as I said, the consensus line now has moved to 72.5. There are 73.5, so it's basically right in between. But for me, again, I'm in New Hampshire, DraftKings, 72.5, juiced a little bit towards the over, so I get it. But I'm taking it with 72.5 all day long.
All right, last one here. Detroit Tigers, 68.5. Spoiler alert, under for me. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm just not buying this. This is a very competitive division. It's a deep division.
Yeah.
And I actually feel better about this under than I feel about the Baltimore under. By a long shot, because I'm getting 4 games difference here. So if I'm going to hammer an AL under on a terrible team, the Tigers are the one to me, because this is one of the tougher divisions where I think all the teams ahead of them are just clearly a cut above. So that's my take, and I just don't think the rest of this team is ready to take over yet. They're going to be a fun team in a couple years, and that sounds great, but you know what? It's 21, so it's not happening this year.
That is the correct answer, as I used to like to say on the fantasy side. I agree with you. I'm under on this too. And I feel bad because it feels so easy to take these horrible teams and they've got really low win totals and you're just like, no, I don't care. It's not low enough. But I agree. And again, the Tigers basically, they've come out and said what they're doing. They're like, we are lowering our payroll. We don't want to, we're
slashing prices.
We are overloaded with the Miggy contract. So we've got these guys on 1-year deals. We will sell them all off at the deadline. We will wait for our young kids to be here. They have no interest in trying to be competitive this year. They have very little talent on their team. So 68.5, they were at a 64 win pace, I believe, last year. So I agree with you. I know it's the bottom feeders, but I will take the under on both.
All right, let's move on to the West here. The Houston Astros are at the top of it theoretically with 87.5. They just lost Framber Valdez, probably for the season. I guess they probably. We're still waiting to figure that out.
When does this happen, by the way, where a fractured finger takes you out for the whole season?
Man, I saw that thing. I saw the fractured finger. I was like, oh, well, he'll be behind. And then, 24 hours later, he could miss the whole season. And I thought, what? Can you imagine if this was the 60s or the 50s? They would say, well, just patch it back up and go pitch.
Rub some dirt on it.
Whitey Ford pitched 7 years with no thumb. How do you think he did that? Let me tell you something, kid.
So
you don't know how tough it was.
Oh, God, we're so old. I'm so sorry, everybody listening.
Ford pitch. It's a baseball reference. But anyway, the rotation's falling apart. We haven't even started. Like Forrest Whitley has got the UCL, so he's done. Forget that. Second opinion is going to be the same as the first opinion, which is going to be Tommy John. And I think the Astros are going to be good. I just want to stay away from the Astros. Again, I see too many variables here, and when I see lots of different outcomes with a team, and this could be a team that smashes this number. They could win 94 games this year.
Yep.
I'm telling you, they have this kind of talent still on this roster. If Alvarez bounces back, if Altuve is right and plays 150 games, if they get Zach Greinke to really lead this rotation, and maybe McCullers or somebody else steps up in that void.
Yep.
But there's too many buts, and that's my problem with the Astros. So 87.5, I'm sorry, I'm out. I'm not nearly as excited as I was about the White Sox. So your turn, Astros, 87.5. What are you doing?
Yeah, I'm going over. I feel less happy about it after the Framber Valdez injury, for sure, and obviously Whitley, but I'm still over. Again, this is a Pacoda sort of variance. Not that I live and die by Pacoda or anything like that, but
it sounds like you do.
I don't. I just
sounds like you've got stock in Pacoda after this show.
I mean, I wouldn't mind it, but the bottom line is that when there's a huge difference between Pacoda and the window, like there's a reason that I try to sort of dig into why that is. And again, sometimes they undervalue the Braves all the time, and the Rays too. So they're not the be all end all. But I do like Houston. And again, the Framber Valdez, like that's terrible, but that whole lineup is going to bounce back, right? Like everybody, like Bregman and Altuve and Correa. And you saw even in the playoffs, how Altuve and Correa already did kind of bounce back.
Right.
So I expect the lineup to be really good again. If Alvarez is healthy, finally Tucker is in there, ready to go. So I like the lineup a lot. And the rotation, again, they immediately went out and signed Odorizzi, right? Like immediately sort of did that to sort of say,
Right.
okay, well, we've got to figure it out. And I don't love Odorizzi, but he'll give you innings. And then the rest of it is fine. Urquidy is not terrible. Javier is fine. I like McCullers as a bounce back. Really, I do. And with Greinke. So for me, this is a team who I realize like there's no Verlander anymore, of course, and then they lost Valdez and all of that, but it still strikes me as a team where the lineup is good enough, the management is good enough. I think actually Dusty Baker now has become from this guy who burned out all his pitchers to a guy who is kind of like listening to analytics at this point, from what I can tell. So I like it. I think they're going to go over. I think they're more of a 90-win team, so I will go with the over here, even with the Valdez injury.
My biggest disappointment is I don't get to sing my song about Framber Valdez because on the DFS show last year, it was always Framber was the color of my energy all the time. And I would sing that song, and every time he had a quality start, which was a lot, and made a lot of money with Framber Valdez last year. So Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, 83.5. Ooh, another team. Is this really whether or not you believe in Dylan Bundy? I'm telling you right now. If you believe in Dylan Bundy, then you like this over. And Shohei Ohtani. If you think those guys are going to throw, I don't know, 100 and let's say 300 innings between them. Let's say 150 for each. Let's throw that out there, or 100 and I don't know, like some combination, 160, 140. I don't care, whatever you want to do. If you believe in those two guys, I think you like the 83.5. Otherwise, I think this is the same old Angels. Like, yeah, it looks like it could be good, maybe, but at the end of the day, it's the pitching that's their undoing.
I'm happy I get to do this because we were joking about me and Pacoda. Pacoda has them at 86 wins, and I love the under here. Okay, at 83.
On the 83, wow.
I like the under a lot. I don't get it with this. I don't get it. They haven't. I don't think they've gone over this number.
I don't know. All I know is Mike Trout has 3 playoff appearances.
What? Since 2015. 2015. I just looked it up. 2015 was the last time that they have gone over 83.5 wins. And I don't understand what is so exciting about this year where suddenly we're like, look at this team. Okay, look at the improvements we made. What are the improvements? Like, I like Dylan Bundy. There's no way I'm relying on Shohei Ohtani, by the way. Like, there's just no way. And like, okay, is this the year Andrew Heaney is finally going to stay healthy and really take that next step? Jose Quintana, you know what he is at this point. He'll give you, it's like they were just, I kudos to them for basically being like, we are going to make up for our lack of top end talent by just throwing 1,000 pitchers in there. And so like when we lose one, we can throw another mediocre starter. I like Griffin Canning, but I don't expect him necessarily to stay healthy the whole year. And Cobb, I mean, at this point, their rotation just isn't good. I like that they added Iglesias, but their bullpen still as a whole is not great. Defensively, they are bad. They lost Andrelton Simmons as well. So really, I just don't get this team. This is not a 500 team to me. I don't understand it. And I think the A's are again going to be good, and we'll talk about them in a minute. And I like the Astros a lot more. So maybe it's that, but I do not understand that. I love the under on this one. I'm not going near the 83.5 wins, under all day.
I thought they should have signed Trevor Bauer. I thought that was the thing.
Why aren't they going out there and signing like a really, really top end pitcher? You know what? Instead they do. They're like, let's just add a mediocre outfielder. Like that's sort of their, they have so much money. Go out and sign the top end of the rotation starter already.
It's puzzling to say the least.
Yeah.
The Oakland A's also always undervalued every year. Now, a little less so this year. 86.5 is the number. This actually feels about right. Now, here's the thing. If you could find 85.5 somewhere or even something lower at some point, I would think about that. Here's what the A's, for me, is if this young pitching all clicks, if it's AJ Puck, if it's Jesus Luzardo, if Montas bounces back, they are going to crush this. I'm telling you, they're going to be probably fighting with Houston for the top of this division if that pitching does what they're capable of. The question is innings. The question is the war of attrition, and if the A's are up to the task. So I'll ask you, do you think they are?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I don't feel as strongly about it as I do on the Angels. And again, they're at 86 everywhere. Every book is 86 at this point. So this 86.5, that's where you're going to get it. Again, this is one, I'm just pointing it out because we were teasing about me that this is one where Pacoda is under, like significantly under. But again, this is one where I think they just don't, whatever their projection system is, they don't know how to capture what these teams are that are so forward thinking. And yeah, I like, again, another one where like the whole is greater than the sum of their parts. The rotation, as you mentioned, Bassett is kind of a sneaky, decent major league
Yeah.
starter, right? Luzardo, who we like for the upside. I really like Frankie Montas. Sounds like he's recovered from the COVID-19. Sean Manaea obviously is there. Mike Fiers is all there. They're all fine. They lost Hendricks, but they've got Rosenthal. He's battling a groin injury right now, but sounds like he'll be okay. The lineup as a whole is just solid. It doesn't blow you away, but they find ways to sort of do it. And they added Elvis Andrus. It's basically been a 97 win team. You give them their pace from last year for 3 straight seasons. Like, this is just a team that knows how to win games. They're well coached. They're well managed. So 86.5. I lean towards the over. I'm not as excited about it again as I am about the under on the Angels, but this is one where I lean definitely towards the over.
Okay, 2 other teams here before we close things out. We got the Seattle Mariners at 72.5. A tricky one because we're excited about some of the young talent, but this kind of sounds like something we talked about before with some of these other teams. Like, yeah, I'm excited about Detroit's young talent, but where are the wins? 72.5, once again, kind of feels about right.
Yeah.
10 games under 500. Yeah, that sounds like the Mariners to me.
Yep.
So it's a hard pass for me. How about for you?
Man, I love it when we disagree on things, but I do not disagree with you here. This is like a hard pass for me. There's a line that I say to my wife when we're joking, which is a line from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which is, after 0 consideration, I can confidently say hard pass. And that's basically how I feel on this. Like, I looked at this and I was like, yeah, I guess it could all go really well. But no, this is like 10 games under 500. It's exactly what this team, I mean, not 10 games, but 10 games, over what it would take to get to 500. That's exactly what this team looks like to me. So hard pass, staying far away from it, no interest in betting it either way.
And then there's the Texas Rangers, 67.5. Another one, too, where I just don't see it, man. Sometimes with a team, you want to see a plan. I have no idea what the Rangers' plan is. The Rangers have no idea what their plan is. I see Joey Gallo. I see some home runs. Yep. I see they'll probably win some around, 67 games. Yep. Once again, just hard pass for me because I don't see how they get above it. And it's already too low of a number where if I had to lean, I'd probably lean slightly on the over here just because I just don't know if they're closer to losing 100 games as this total is telling you. But then again, you look at the rest of this rotation and you go, oh, maybe. I mean, this is another rotation it's brutal. They're the pitching haves and have-nots. And I just think over 162 this year off the COVID season, where people don't have inning stamina, it is going to be glaringly obvious, which is why I keep coming back to Cleveland, because Cleveland does have that. And I think that is a huge separator where if you're going to give you a 500 Cleveland team, you take your shot on that one because it's a good chance that pitching wins out over the long haul. But the Texas Rangers, 67.5, I'm out. Where are you?
And it's a good point on Cleveland, by the way. I think that's
I try.
right.
Every now and then something smart.
Every once in a while. It's first time.
Once a show.
Look, this is something where like you, this is not like one of my favorite bets on the board. I actually, if forced to choose, I would lean under. There are 66.5s out there. So if, at that point, especially stay away. 67.5, I kind of lean under. Again, this is a team that does not seem to have interest in competing this year. The bullpen is really bad. Jose Leclerc, I guess, will close. And Jonathan Hernandez now, just today, has something apparently with his UCL and his elbow. So the bullpen really is not going to be good. The offense, I like Willie Calhoun and I like Joey Gallo, and that's about it. And the rotation is just, I like Dane Dunning, as a long-term guy, but Kyle Gibson is your number one. That's just not going to work. So,
oh God,
I would lean under, but not nearly as strong as the Tigers and the Orioles, the bottom feeders of those divisions. I like those much more. So mostly a stay away from me, but if I had to choose, I would lean under.
All right, I want to remind everybody, hit us up at bettingpros.com. And of course, you can check out the MLB win totals at bettingpros.com/MLB wins. Dan, anything else going on fun and exciting in the world of BP?
These days, we've got so much March Madness stuff that's about to drop. It's going to be awesome. We're going to have this bracket optimizer, which I'm not even going to tell you about yet because I'm going to wait till it launches, where it is going to be spectacular. You are going to be able to fill out a bracket depending on where you're playing, your scoring system that they award points on it, depending on the size of your pool. You can start with a consensus sort of picks of people who have put in brackets. If you trust a bunch of people like we do with consensus experts, it is going to be spectacular. Be on the lookout for the bracket optimizer. We will have more about that next week.
I need a life optimizer. Let's get working on that. We get the life optimizer, and then we're all set. So
we're in works for it for you, but it's like 40 years in development. So we
That's
got a
okay.
while.
I'm not going anywhere.
You're
All right. I have a very long-term contract here. Just to recap too, I am very bullish on the White Sox and the Indians. That's where really I'm looking. Dan, final thoughts here as we close the door on the American League win totals.
Yeah, I love the Royals over. I think this team is definitely going to be closer to 500 than people are giving them credit for. At the same time, I really like the under on the Angels because I do not get it. They are poor defensively. The rotation is mediocre at best. The bullpen is just okay. So those are my two favorite: over on the Royals, under on the Angels.
All right, that'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Dan Harris, I'm Joe Pisapia. We'll see you next time, kids.